The Vampire Diaries novel series. The Vampire Diaries is a young adult vampire fiction series of novels created by American author L.J. Smith. The story centers on Elena Gilbert, a young high school girl who finds her heart eventually torn between two vampire brothers, Stefan and Damon Salvatore. Publishing history. The series was originally published in 1991-1992, and it revolves around Stefan Salvatore and Elena Gilbert as the two main protagonists. The first three novels in the original series, The Awakening, The Struggle, and The Fury, all feature Stefan and Elena as the narrators of the series, while the last book in the original series, Dark Reunion, is from Bonnie McCullough's viewpoint. After taking a long hiatus from writing, Smith published the first installment of the Return trilogy, Nightfall, on February 10, 2009. Shadow Souls, the second book of the Return trilogy, was released on March 16, 2010. The third and final book of the Return trilogy, Midnight, was released on March 15, 2011. The trilogy, after the Return trilogy, The Hunters, was written by a ghostwriter. In fact, Smith signed a work-for-hire contract back when she had written the original Vampire Diaries novel trilogy, which means Alloy owns the copyrights to the series. Smith had originally intended to call the books in the Hunters trilogy Phantom, Evensong, and Eternity, but the third book was called Destiny Rising by the ghostwriter. Phantom was released on October 25, 2011, Moonsong on March 13, 2012, and Destiny Rising on October 23, 2012. The Salvation trilogy was written by ghostwriter Aubrey Clark. The first installment, Unseen, was released on May 2, 2013, the second book, Unspoken, on November 7, 2013, and the third and final book, Unmasked, on May 8, 2014. The first two books of the Salvation trilogy were first released on Amazon as a paperback and ebook, while Unmasked was available for pre-order purchase in 5 formats as of March 11, 2014 at Amazon.com. On January 15, 2014, Smith announced that she would be continuing to write her version of the Vampire Diaries. Smith would continue to write her books on Amazon Kindle as fan fiction and are not part of the official series. The Evensong arc would pick up where the Return, Midnight, had left off, and it takes place in an alternate world from the official series that follows Midnight. The three titles in the Evensong trilogy include Paradise Lost, The War of Roses, and Into the Wood. While the first two titles were released in 2014, Into the Wood has not yet been released as of June 2021. However, L.J. Smith has revealed that the novel will be released via Kindle Worlds. Novels: The Vampire Diaries, The Awakening Volume I, 1991, The Awakening, ISBN 978-1-4449-71-2 is the first novel in the Vampire Diaries series and introduces the main cast of characters Elena, Stefan, Matt, Bonnie, Caroline, and Meredith, who is absent from the TV series. The plot of the novel revolves around the romance between Stefan Salvatore and Elena Gilbert and the group's attempts to understand the brutal attacks that have taken place in Fells Church. Stefan Salvatore believes that he was committing the atrocities, however, it is later revealed that it was his brother Damon Salvatore. This book also introduces the background of the Salvatore brothers, which introduces the characters Catherine and Klaus. The Struggle, Volume Roman II, 1991. The Struggle, ISBN 970-8-6-199,076-2, picks up where The Awakening left off while introducing new characters like Alaric Saltzman. After the murder of their past history teacher, Elena attempts to clear Stefan's innocence after he is accused of committing the crime, and Damon looks into Alaric Saltzman's role in all of this. It is later revealed that the town knows about vampires and hired Alaric to try and kill Stefan and Damon. However, Alaric later joins Damon and Stefan and ends up dating Meredith Sulas. A powerful being has returned to Fell's Church, and despite Stefan's belief in Damon as the perpetrator, no one knows its identity. Controlling the wind, the evil power chases Elena off Wickery Bridge to her death. The Fury, Volume Roman 3, 1991. The Fury, ISBN 978-6-199077-9, reveals that the Salvatore's former lover Catherine von Schwarzschild was the evil force in Fell's Church. The Fury introduces Catherine as a villain, with the plot revolving around a newly turned Elena trying to cope with the stresses of becoming a vampire. Stefan and Damon work together to try and stop Catherine, who has been possessing animals and killing people all around Fell's Church. Discovering Catherine's secret lair beneath the graveyard, Stefan, Damon, and Elena fight her, resulting in both Elena and Catherine's deaths. Dark Reunion, Volume Roman 4, 1992. Dark Reunion, ISBN 978-6202058-1. The Reunion in the UK and Australia version is the final novel in the original wave of Vampire Diaries books and features the heavily foreshadowed Klaus as the main villain. After the death of Elena, Damon and Stefan have left Fell's Church, only to be brought back by Bonnie after she begins to have psychic dreams about Klaus torturing Elena. Klaus has captured Caroline and has been manipulating Tyler Smallwood into performing his dirty work. After the deaths of two friends, Stefan goes out to kill Klaus, only to realize that he is one of the old ones, meaning he can't be killed. Damon returns to help battle the vampire, only to be continually defeated. Just as Klaus is gloating over his victories, hundreds of dead Civil War soldiers rise from the grave, led by Elena, to drag Klaus to the underworld. Elena is resurrected, and with seemingly every enemy vanquished, the cast leaves successful in their conquests. Omnibuses. The Awakening and the Struggle, 2007, ISBN 978-1-41-782,599-8. The Fury and Dark Reunion, 2007, ISBN 978-6-114,098-3. The Return Trilogy. The Return, Nightfall, 2009. Written over a decade later, The Return, Nightfall, ISBN 9,780,061,720,802, picks up where the last novel left off, with Elena now in the care of Stefan. Damon has become possessed by the evil fox demon Shinishi and his twin sister Misao, who have been invading the town using mystical and evil malach. Elena struggles to adjust back to her human form after having spent so much time in the spirit world. She later changes back to her human self, but simultaneously loses her angel powers. Stefan is captured by the possessed Damon, who later lures Elena and Matt in a brutal trap. After saving Damon from the horrible malach that has taken over his body, the duo take on Shinishi and Misao, who are planning and killing Bonnie and Meredith. After saving her friends, Elena embarks on a journey with Matt and Damon to free Stefan from the brutal dark dimension. The Return, Shadow Souls, 2010 and 2010. The Return, Shadow Souls, ISBN 978-6-172,083-3, takes place after the events of Nightfall and follows Damon, Elena, and Matt as they attempt to travel into the dark dimension. Bonnie and Meredith fight against Shinishi and Misao, who have been corrupting the citizens of Fell's Church. When Damon and Elena get intimate on the road, Matt abandons them and returns to Fell's Church, where he instructs Bonnie and Meredith to meet up with Damon and Elena. When they arrive in the brutal dark dimension, Damon saves a woman named Alma, and she helps them find the first half of a fox key that is needed to rescue Stefan. Damon, Bonnie, Elena, and Meredith attend a party hosted by a woman named Blodeuwed, who transforms into a huge owl every night. When Elena steals the last half of the fox key from the owl, she attempts to kill them, but is unsuccessful, eventually dying by Elena's newfound powers. Using the key to free Stefan, Elena uses her powers to help transport them back to Earth, where Shinichi is waiting. After shooting the hologram of Shinichi with blessed bullets, Elena attempts to coax Stefan back to health, and Damon is transformed into a human after a terrible coincidence. The Return, Midnight 2011 and D11 and D11 and Turn, Midnight 2011. The Return, Midnight, ISBN 978-6-172 1085-7 begins after Damon has become a human and starts with him tricking Bonnie into giving him Missao's power. After Bonnie tries to thwart Damon, they are both transported into the dark dimension where Damon works to become a vampire again. Meredith reveals herself as a hunter-slayer, a skill that she inherited after Klaus attacked her family and turned her brother Christian into a vampire. Shinichi and Misao attack the Salvatore boarding house to try to retrieve Misao's star ball. However, they are unsuccessful, and Misao eventually dies after her star ball is destroyed. Meredith realizes that Inari, an old friend of theirs, is secretly behind the attacks and is one of the oldest and most powerful beings in the universe. Matt, Meredith, and Mrs. Flowers, the owner of the Salvatore boarding house, attempt to stop her, while Damon, who has newly returned to his vampire status, joins up with Stefan, Bonnie, and Elena to find the 7 Kitsune treasures. After finding the 7 Kitsune treasures, Damon and Stefan kill Shinichi, who is trying to stop them. However, a magic tree stakes Damon, and he dies. After Elena destroys the 7 treasures, she goes to find the mystical guardians who have the power to bring people back from the dead. She asks for her old life back in return for the remaining Kitsune treasure. However, they are unable to bring Damon back to life. Elena returns to her old life only to find out that Inari was killed when the treasure was destroyed, and that everything has returned to normal before Klaus, Catherine, and Shinichi invaded Fell's Church. The Hunters Trilogy. The Hunters, Phantom 2011 and The Hunters, Phantom is the starting novel of a new arc, this time written by a ghostwriter. It begins with Meredith Sulez's fiancé to be Alaric Saltzman returning from Japan with a fellow researcher, Celia Connor. Since the Guardians changed the realities of Fell's Church so that all the evil that Klaus, Catherine, and the Kitsune twins committed never happened, Elena is no longer dead, and she is able to see her Aunt Judith and her sister Margaret again. Alaric and Celia arrive by train just after her name is mysteriously spelled out in blood. Other names begin to appear, first Meredith, then Damon, Bonnie, Elena, and Matt. Damon manages to escape from the dark dimension after it is revealed that the embers of the star ball Elena destroyed revived him after his death in the Return. Stefan begins to suspect Caleb Smallwood, Tyler Smallwood's cousin, of committing the crimes after he finds out that he still remembers the original timeline with Klaus and Catherine. Stefan tries to kill Caleb, but is unsuccessful because Elena intervenes. Stefan and Meredith interrogate Caleb only to realize that he was not causing the accidents around Fell's Church. Simultaneously, the bodies of Matt, Bonnie, and Elena have all been taken into the dark dimension, where Damon is trying to hunt the villain. Damon reveals that the monster is an original phantom, and that it feeds on your emotions the same way a vampire feeds on blood. After the phantom is summoned to Fell's Church, Alaric tries to use old magic to cast the phantom out. However, the phantom is able to play on people's minds and forces Stefan and Damon to battle. They eventually cast the phantom out after revealing all of their jealousies and burning down the garage in the process. They prepare to attend Dalcrest College in the coming fall. The Hunters, Moonsong 2012. In The Hunters, Moonsong, written by a ghostwriter, Elena, Stefan, Matt, Bonnie, and Meredith are all attending Dalcrest College, just a few hours away from Fell's Church. They all settle into new rituals, with Bonnie befriending a boy named Xander and Meredith meeting a fellow vampire hunter named Samantha. Matt Honeycutt is invited to join the secret group, called the Vital Society, where he is met by dozens of recruits, including his new friend Chloe, and even more masked Vitals, led by the mysterious Ethan Crane. Elena chooses to part ways with both Damon and Stefan after they begin to battle over her again, leading the two brothers to bond over their shared misery. Damon is living across town in a fancy apartment and is much less considerate of Elena's wish to remain separate. Elena and Damon are constantly together, making Stefan become even more jealous and cold. When people start disappearing from campus, Meredith and Samantha try to uncover who is behind it, only to have Matt's roommate Christopher and Meredith's friend Samantha killed. Meredith and Elena suspect Xander is the killer, making Bonnie so upset that she moves out of their dorm. Xander reveals himself as a werewolf, making Bonnie believe that he is the killer. However, a few hundred feet away, Ethan Crane is beginning a ritual with the fellow Vitals. The Vital Society is actually a group of vampires, and the new recruits, including Matt, are all to be turned into a vampire army. Stefan arrives to protect Matt, but is quickly subdued by Ethan and his vampires. Ethan Crane reveals that he is intent on bringing back the powerful original vampire Klaus, and that he wants to gift him the massive army that he has assembled. Damon, Meredith, and Elena arrive to stop the Vitals and kill about a dozen. The rest escape. Ethan Crane threatens to kill Elena, but is quickly impaled with Meredith's fighting stave. Bonnie places spells sealing up the tunnels from the outside so that no one finds the dead vampires until they have been disposed of. However, Ethan actually survived his wounds and now has all of the ingredients he needs to resurrect Klaus. The Hunters, Destiny Rising 2012. The Hunters, Destiny Rising, written by a ghostwriter. After the events of The Hunters, Moonsong, Stefan, Elena, Meredith, and Xander's wolf pack are rallying to try and find Ethan after they discover his body is missing from the Vital vampire chamber. Alaric Saltzman comes into town and helps Meredith rig vervain bombs to try and lure Ethan out of the tombs. However, Ethan has already begun the ceremony deep in the woods. Stefan and the wolf pack battle the Vital vampires. However, Ethan successfully pours Stefan and Damon's blood into a huge bonfire, raising Klaus. Klaus instantly kills Ethan and wounds Xander, telling Elena to watch her back before vanishing into the woods. Bonnie has a vision of Klaus bringing back his old allies, including Catherine and Meredith's brother Christian. Alaric, Meredith, and Bonnie hunt for a white oak tree that can be used to kill Klaus, but Tyler and Caroline were compelled by Klaus to burn it down. Elena learns that she is an earthly guardian and that she cannot be killed by supernatural means. She is given lessons in mastering her powers by another earthly guardian named Andres, who works with her history professor, James, who helps her understand her skills. Damon is hunting humans again, causing Stefan and Elena to hide his actions from the rest of the group, who already dislike the more sarcastic Salvatore brother. Stefan and the rest of the group go hunting for Klaus, only to discover that he has created an army, including the powerful Catherine. They battle, resulting in the death of the werewolf Chad, and Klaus realizes that he has to find another way to kill Elena. Elena and Andres are ambushed by Klaus on an elevator, and Andres is kidnapped after Damon saves Elena from Klaus. Damon and Catherine begin to work together, feeding on humans and having fun, but she eventually warns Damon about Klaus' plan and he leaves to join Stefan and their army of werewolves. Elena, as an earthly guardian, is given the task of killing Damon Salvatore, which she rejects as ridiculous, choosing instead to go after Klaus. Christian tries to kill Meredith, leading her to realize that she must kill her brother if the time arises. Klaus and his army, except Catherine, battle against Stefan, Damon, Meredith, and an army of werewolves. Meredith runs Christian through with a stake, killing him instantly, while Damon and Stefan battle against the countless other vampires Klaus has brought with him. Klaus captures Elena and brings her into the tunnels beneath the school, where he stabs her and begins to drink her blood. Stefan and Damon find Elena, only to realize that Klaus has died, realizing that Elena's blood. With all of their threats defeated, Meredith and Alaric get engaged while Bonnie continues to date the original werewolf Sander. Elena chooses to be with Stefan after she explains to the Guardians that Damon will no longer be a problem anymore. Damon and Catherine choose to leave the continent, presumably going to Asia, which Damon has specified that he enjoyed. The Salvation Trilogy. The Salvation. Unseen 2013, written by Aubrey Clark. The Salvation. Unspoken 2013, written by Aubrey Clark. The Salvation. Unmasked 2014, written by Aubrey Clark. Characters. He, a equals main cast occurs as a main figure throughout the entire novel. Equals recurring cast character appears several times in the book but is omitted from long periods. Equals guest cast characters occurs in only one or two chapters of the novel or is mentioned often in a method that affects the plot. Adaptations. Television. Stefan's Diaries. The Stefan's Diaries are 6 novels based on the TV series, attributed to Lisa Jane Smith but actually ghostwritten. They tell Stefan and Damon's past since Catherine's arrival. As they were written during the series broadcast, some things differ, such as the story of the original vampires. The Vampire Diaries. Stefan's Diaries, origins November 2, 2010. The Vampire Diaries. Stefan's Diaries, Bloodlust January 4, 2011. The Vampire Diaries. Stefan's Diaries, The Craving March 3, 2011. The Vampire Diaries. Stefan's Diaries, The Ripper November 8, 2011. The Vampire Diaries. Stefan's Diaries, The Asylum January 17, 2012. The Vampire Diaries. Stefan's Diaries, The Compelled March 12, 2012. Video game. The series was adapted into a point-and-click adventure horror video game released in 1996 by Here Interactive. It tells the story of teenager Elena Gilbert, who, while visiting an art gallery, witnesses her little sister being a victim of a bat-like animal. Suspicions arise among the citizens of Fells Church that a vampire may be walking among them. After the attack, it is revealed to Elena that Stefan Salvatore, the doctor's assistant working at the hospital where Elena's sister is staying, is actually a vampire that died in a duel with his brother, Damon Smith Salvatore, in the 1500s. Damon also happens to be a student biology teacher at Elena's high school. Stefan suggests to Elena that the other vampire attacking Fells Church, whoever they are, may be defeated by a ring of power, and the rest of the game is spent preparing for the ritual and creation of the Ring of Power. Along the way, Elena can interact with several characters, including her friend Bonnie McCullough and Bonnie's boss, who happens to own a spiritual dagger that is key to defeating the villain. After creating the Ring of Power, in a twist reveal, Elena learns that the vampire that attacked her sister is Makol Romanoff, owner of the art gallery and manipulative lover of Caroline Forbes, Elena's friend from kindergarten turned mean girl. After the defeat of Makol, Elena allows Stefan to bite her so they can be together forever. The game was made at the peak of popularity for interactive movie games and features live-action actors and footage. Awards.